Welcome to my YouTube channel, In the Name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Let's start with the topic of humanity's need for prophethood. Part number 27, Healthy Eating and Personal Hygiene. O children of Adam, take your adornment at every place of prostration, and eat and drink, but be not excessive. Indeed, he likes not those who commit excess. These divine instructions were not left unqualified. Rather, nuanced detail was provided by the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ regarding food, drink, and dress. For instance, the Qur'an forbids Muslims from eating pork unless a dire necessity compels them, a prohibition which is also biblical. Muslims were also discouraged, not forbidden, by the Prophet ﷺ from eating beef to avoid medical complications. In one hadith, I prescribe for you cow's milk, for they eat from all the herbs, and it contains a cure for every disease. In another related report, and stay away from cow meat, for it is a cause of disease. The harms of excessive beef are common knowledge of late. Not only was the kind of food addressed, but the amount as well. The Prophet ﷺ said, "No human being fills any vessel worse than his stomach. It is sufficient for the son of Adam to eat a few mouthfuls. To erect his spine, i.e. sustain him, but if he must, eat more, then let 1/3 be for food, 1/3 for drink, and 1/3 for air." Taking it a brilliant step further, Muslims were given by their Prophet ﷺ a roadmap to eating less. Transitioning them from the abstract to practical applications of this guidance, Anas ibn Malik reports that the Prophet ﷺ forbade them from drinking while standing, and Anas added that eating while standing was even worse. This advice on eating and drinking mindfully is a proven key to avoiding the dangers of overeating and obesity. As for personal hygiene, the following words are attributed to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. 10 practices are from the fitra, natural inclinations: trimming the mustache, letting the beard grow, brushing the teeth, rinsing the nose, clipping the nails, washing the finger joints, plucking armpit hair, shaving pubic hair, and washing oneself with water after using the lavatory. A sub-narrator said, and I forgot the 10th, unless it was rinsing the mouth. When people reflect on the wisdom of such teachings, see the effects of their application, and consider the laws of Islam from the perspective of their higher objectives, they are often stirred both intellectually and spiritually. These 10 practices above, for instance, do not just testify to the final Prophet ﷺ being centuries ahead of the most progressive civilizations of his time in hygiene, but they also indicate how kind the most affectionate Lord of Might is to his creation. George Bernard Shaw, d. 1950. An influential Irish playwright and critic, writes, "The formulators of the superseded native religion, like Muhammad, had been enlightened enough to introduce as religious duties such sanitary measures as ablution and the most careful and reverent treatment of everything cast off by the human body, even to nail clippings and hairs. And our missionaries thoughtlessly discredited this godly doctrine without supplying its place, which was promptly taken by laziness and neglect until Christendom's encounter with the Muslim world during the Crusades of the 11th century. Bathing was not yet customary amongst Europeans. Plagues would regularly visit their unsanitary dwellings, and they would wear grime-covered clothing until it fell off their bodies. By that time, Muslims had been washing for prayers, bathing after sexual intercourse and for ritual devotions, and even washing their deceased for 400 years, as James Harper writes about the Crusades. Back in Europe, washing was not considered a priority. Indeed, it was often despised as a mark of effeminacy. But the Crusaders soon began to discover the therapeutic pleasures of the public bath. Similar to a modern Turkish bath, that was a normal part of Muslim life. Islam even discouraged the consumption of raw onions and promoted rinsing the mouth regularly and brushing the teeth frequently. As the Prophet ﷺ said, "The toothbrush is a purification for the mouth and a means of pleasing the Lord." Islam's final prophet, Muhammad ﷺ, taught that these are means of nearness to God and of not offending people and angels who are bothered by bad odors. With today's advances in medical technology, most of us understand just how useful brushing one's teeth and diluting the sugar in one's mouth, for instance, can be in preventing rotting teeth and the agony that ensues from gum infection. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ instructed Muslims to begin their wudu, ritual ablution, or pre-prayer wash, by thoroughly rinsing their hands. It is estimated that only 19% of people across the world wash their hands after using the toilet. And the numbers on preventable diseases attributable to poor hand hygiene are more alarming in the Americas today than in the Muslim-majority Eastern Mediterranean regions. Despite the amount of scientific evidence documenting the health and even life-saving benefits of this basic cleanliness practice, we find that in today's modern world, where sanitary precautions in general have contributed to overall healthier populations, people are still not as hygienically motivated in this regard as Muslims have been for nearly 1,500 years. Another component of the ritual wudu involves rinsing the nose. Researchers are beginning to discover just how valuable this simple practice can be to our health. One study concluded that nasal irrigation has enormous potential in improving quality of life in a cost-efficient manner for millions of patients. Rhinologists refer to it as nasal irrigation because sending small amounts of water all the way through is the proper way to treat and prevent sinusitis. Among other things, this is precisely what the Prophet ﷺ prescribed in his statement, "And be thorough in irrigating the nose unless you are fasting." In other words, the water should almost reach the throat in this nasal rinsing. Hence, carefulness during fasting is warranted. The Islamic message also reinforced the notion that ritual washing is not just about outer cleanliness. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ taught that before performing the salah to connect with God, this sacred engagement should begin with the wudu, even if we may be externally unsoiled. This seems to symbolize the inseparability of the physical and metaphysical realms, and that just as water originates from the heavens to cleanse our physical bodies from dirt and unpleasant odors, it too allows us to reconnect with heaven through rinsing our spirits from that which has polluted them in the context of ritual purification. Allah concludes the discussion with an allusion to this profound dual function, saying, "Allah loves those who are constantly repentant and loves those who purify themselves." The Prophet ﷺ also linked the purification of the exterior and interior, helping us remember that during the ritual washing of our bodies, we are also cleansing our souls and subconscious minds from the iniquities that regularly pollute them. He ﷺ said, "No person among you brings near his ablution water, then rinses his mouth and irrigates, then clears his nose, except that the sins of his face and mouth and nostrils fall therefrom, and then he does not wash his face as Allah has instructed him, except that his face's sins fall from the tips of his beard along with the water, and then he does not wash his arms to the elbows, except that his arms' sins fall from his fingertips along with the water, and then he does not pass his wet hands over his head, except that the sins of his head are washed away through the ends of his hair along with the water, and then he does not wash his feet to the ankles, except that his feet's sins are washed away from his toes along with the water. Then he does not rise to prayer, wherein he praises Allah, glorifies Him, proclaims His greatness as He deserves, and pours his heart out to Allah, except that he emerges from that prayer as sin-free as the day his mother gave birth to him. Thanks for watching this video. Be ready for the next video. Like, share, and subscribe my YouTube channel.